So we're going to look at two verbs in Espanol, ser and estar. Ser is an irregular verb that we've used a lot. It was one of the very first verbs that we learned in Spanish 1. It doesn't follow a regular pattern, but we've gotten pretty good at using it. We just have to remember that it's more memorized than follows any kind of rules. Soy, eres, es, somos, son. I am, you are, he or she is, we are, they are. Okay. It's also used for things like telling time. ¿Qué hora es? Son las 8 de la noche. Es la 1:30. So son, of course, being used for multiple hours, like something that's bigger than 1 o'clock. And es, because it's 1 hour, is used for only times using one or anything with the hour 1. We've also used it for the date. ¿Qué día es hoy? Hoy es lunes. Hoy es martes, mañana es martes, mi cumpleaños es el 6 de marzo. So anytime we're talking about the date, whether it's an actual physical date, like with a month and a day, or a day of the week, we use es. So we've gotten really good at using ser. We've also used this verb, estar, a little bit when we're talking about how we're feeling. It was one of the first questions we learned how to do in Spanish 1. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? So estar is nice because it follows more of a pattern. It is an AR verb and it follows the common A endings except for the yo form. Okay, so estoy, estás, está, estamos, están. The difference here, of course, is that 3 of these have accents. And the reason why that is because in Espanol, there are other words that look like these two in particular. Esta means this. Estas means these. Like if I said esta pluma, this pen. Estas plumas, these pens. Without the accent, it means this and these. But with the accent, it means you are. He or she is. So those accents are there to help us not get mixed up with other words in Espanol. So we don't want to forget those accents when we're writing the verb estar. So the trick is, though, is this means I am, you are, he or she is, we are, they are. What? So there's 2 verbs that mean the same thing. So how do I know which one I'm supposed to be using? Which one is the right one to use? So I'm going to teach you some rules that will help you out. I'm going to fast forward here. Okay, so ser is used for descriptions, and we've already used this before to talk about who or what we are. Yo soy simpática y inteligente. También soy morena y alta. So we've used it to describe what we look like and also our personality. These are qualities that don't change very much. Okay, they're pretty consistent. Estar is used for things that do change a little more, like your feelings. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy feliz, estoy bien. Obviously, that's not something that's going to stay the same all the time. Okay? So, for example, if I want to say, hey, Luke, yo estoy tu padre. Okay, well, I'm not talking about a feeling. I'm talking about who I am. So I need to use the verb ser. So I would want to say, Luke, yo soy tu padre. I am your father, not, okay? So I'm not talking about a feeling. I'm talking about something that is who I am. All right, so ser is also used to talk about where we're from, okay? And it often uses this keyword de, from. De donde eres. Yo soy de Peru. Sometimes, though, we don't use the country, we'll just actually use the nationality. So instead of saying I am from Peru, I might just say I am Peruvian. Soy peruano. Okay, in that case, I don't need to use the de, but it's obvious that I'm talking about some sort of nationality because the name of the country is found in the nationality. So if you're using this word, de, chances are you're going to be using the verb ser because you're talking about where you're from. Okay, something that's not going to change your nationality. Estar is used to talk about your location, which does change, and it uses this keyword en or in. So I could say, ¿Dónde estás? Where are you? Estoy en la clase de español. So I'm in the class right now, but I won't always be. Okay? So here's an example. Darth Vader's helping us out again. He says, Luke, soy un Lord Sith. Soy de Tatooine. Soy el malo. I am the evil one. Okay, so he's describing who he is. He's a Sith Lord. He's from Tatooine. He's bad. Okay, and he says, también soy tu padre. I'm your dad. And then over here, he's going to use estar. Estoy en el lado oscuro. I'm in the dark side. Y estoy muy contento. Okay, and I'm very happy being there. Okay, so he uses estoy to talk about where he is and how he's feeling. He uses ser to talk about who he is and where he's from. Okay. Now, estar is also used for one other thing that we're going to look at, which is things that we're doing right this minute, right now. Obviously, this is something that could change. So we use the verb estar because it's an action that we're doing now, but may not be doing in a few minutes. And so I could ask this question, ¿Qué estás haciendo? What are you doing? Okay, using the verb hacer, which means to do. But you'll notice I've done something kind of interesting here with hacer. Yo estoy jugando basketball. I'm playing basketball. And again, I've done something kind of interesting with the verb jugar. Okay, so this is how we would do the ing in Espanol. First, you have to use a form of estar because this action will change. So I just pick who's doing the action. Is it me? Is it you? Is it he or she? Is it we? Is it they? So I have to use estar first. Then I choose the action verb. What is it I'm doing right now? For AR verbs, I'm going to take off the AR, just like I would do if I was changing the verb for like myself. But in this case, I just take it off and then add ANDO. This is how I do ing for AR verbs. For ER or IR verbs, I take off the last two letters and I add IENDO. Okay, and this will be the same for both types of verbs. So, ando, yendo. So let's say, for example, I want to say he is swimming in the pool. I would say he, the is going to be está because I want to use a verb that shows it's changing, something that's not permanent. Él está nadando en la piscina. So I've used my stem for nadar. I take off the AR and add ANDO. That means he is swimming in the pool. We are skiing in the mountains. Nosotros estamos, this is our, okay, esquiando, okay, I use ANDO for ing, en las montañas. So that would be for AR verbs. Let's look at some ER and IR verbs. You are running in the park. Tú estás corriendo en el parque. So I take off the ER for correr and I add IENDO. But I got to make sure I use estás for you are, okay? Tú estás. She is writing a letter. Ella, oops, and that's a typo. Ella está escribiendo una carta, okay? Ella está escribiendo. So she is, and then I take escribir and take off the IR and add IENDO. Ella está escribiendo una carta. She's writing a letter. Okay? So that's how you would say the ing in Espanol. It only changes depending on what kind of verb you're using, if it's AR, ER, or IR. And then, of course, using some form of the verb estar for you are, he is, she is, we are, those types of things. All right, bien, adiós.